It's the start of a new week, and we got a lot to talk about. You got the Super Bowl with Jalen and Devonta and Landon. You got bracketology. Alabama's still way up there. You've got recruiting going on. You got coordinator searches. But one thing that people seem to forget about, but is always a lot of fun, is the Senior Bowl.
Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, how are you today?
Good. Big week, Senior Bowl, Super Bowl, lots of bowls, multiple bowls.
All kind of bowls. And Kirby Smart has a bowl cut. I mean, it's just bowls everywhere. So, Jimmy, I do want to start out by giving a hearty and thorough congratulations to Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, Landon, Dickerson, and Josh Jobe, who actually got a punch in apparently in the game yesterday. So congratulations to him. But 4 Alabama dudes will be playing in the Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. Therefore, I will be a huge Eagles fan. As if you ever listen to this podcast, my son's a big Eagles fan for absolutely no reason. He just always has been. And so I'm thrilled to death for them. I think that's fantastic. And, it's great. I mean, Jalen and Devonta playing up against Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce is going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. The Eagles, my team as well, this late in the playoffs. I'm really happy for Jalen. I mean, the movie that they ultimately make about Jalen's life will be too hard to believe. In terms of just go back to when I think about the quote low point of Jalen's time at Alabama, it's probably the Auburn game in 2017 when Alabama lost to Jordan-Hare. We thought we might have lost a chance to play in the playoff. Jalen didn't play well at all. A lot of calls to replace him with the freshman Tua after that Auburn game. But if the funny thing to me, Luke, about how football works is if you'd have been the one guy on the planet Earth that wandered into an Alabama message board that night in the depths of despair and said, one day Jalen will be a legitimate NFL MVP candidate and carry his team to the Super Bowl, you would have been called the dumbest guy on the whole planet. But the fact of the matter is, all the naysayers, the ones looking not so smart that night.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if you remember, I remember that 2017 game well. There was one pass Jalen had that was nice. It was a touchdown by Jerry Jeudy. Kerryon Johnson had a big game against us. But I'll maintain this to the day I die, and maybe this is my inner Bama speaking, but had Alabama played Tua Tagovailoa, say, after halftime of that game, then I believe we would have won the Auburn game. But what we might have gone to the Georgia game, and now Georgia would have had time to prepare for Tua, a week, and maybe they beat us. And so maybe in the SEC title game, maybe we probably still would have gotten in the playoffs. So, but they would also have the little bit more of a Tua playbook, because the second time Georgia played Tua, people forget this, in the SEC title game in 2018, they had some time to prepare. They played him pretty doggone well. So now they had a year to prepare for him, but they played him pretty well. But yeah, you're absolutely right about that. That game was it's funny how life works out. I mean, because frankly, I think that game and the subsequent Clemson game where Jalen was very mid. I mean, he just wasn't very good in that game either. He was okay. His best touchdown pass was to Deron Payne. I mean, that's bad. And then, of course, in the Georgia game, he was practically abysmal in the first half. But I think that helped define him. I mean, he actually had an interview in the Eagles game beforehand and said, I wouldn't change anything. I needed that. It hurt. He said it hurt, but he needed it. And sometimes, a friend of mine once told me when I was going through my divorce, said, and I know this is a very famous saying, but tough times don't last, tough people do. And it's hard when you're in the middle of the tough times to buy into that. But when you're out of the tough times, you can go, okay, that helped shape me, and it helped me get through. And now I look at life a little differently. And I think that Jalen Hurts, it certainly shaped him and helped shape his career, because you cannot phase that man. That
It
man
was sad. It was sad when you got divorced from Jalen Hurts.
It was sad. But Jalen, I'm glad Jalen's happy now. I just want Jalen to be happy.
Jalen's happier than you are over the divorce.
And what's weird is
doing well.
He wanted me to have the kids. So I got the kids. He got the, he got the gold mine. I got the shaft. Jimmy.
Hey, I think this off season you're headed for a big old alimony check, pal.
I know. There's nobody's pulling for Jalen Hurts more than I am. Speaking of that, I mean, Jalen could be NFL's first gazillion-dollar man.
I think he's going to get a minimum $40 million a year. Just a question of, are the Eagles going to commit to him for 10 years? I would guess with as much running around as he does, they're going to be hesitant to give him a 10-year deal like Mahomes got. So I don't know. About 7 times 40 is $280 million. That'll probably do him.
Okay. Well, but here's the thing. Jalen, our main man, a former Tider, Bama alum, graduate, we need what do we need? Like $75 million for a new basketball arena? 2 years, baby, and you got that thing paid for.
You talking about Jalen Hurts Memorial Coliseum? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about Jalen Hurts Memorial Coliseum. Now, let's also talk about Devonta Smith. And first of all, Devontae's best play yesterday really shouldn't have counted. It was I hate to say it's a drop because it makes it sound like he just fumbled it away, which didn't happen. He made an unbelievably acrobatic attempt at catching the ball that it was almost impossible to control. But he was smart enough to get up and say, let's go. I guess this means let's get up to the huddle. Get up to the line.
Yeah. That's ACL for that. ASL. What's an ACL? ACL is more of a football thing. I think ACL is more of a language thing.
What the heck are you talking about?
Like American Sign Language? Is that it?
American. I do remember my daughter used to do, I think this was more like when Sela was really young and like she would like something, she'd be dancing and the song would go off. She'd go, mo, mo. And I remember that. And that's what he was saying, like more. Maybe he was signing. Anywho.
I'll bring it up because if people seen the press conference with Nick Sirianni when the game was over, and he has 3 young kids, and his 2-year-old daughter seemed to be trying to sign everything that was being said, or that's what it kind of looked like she was doing, and he had to make her stop, but it was funny.
Well, I'll tell you, look, I've been to Philadelphia a bunch of times. I really like Philadelphia, but it's a rough town. I mean, nobody's ever going to say it's not, you're battle tested if you grew up in Philly, right? But it's got 2 of the nicest dudes that you'll ever know. I mean, these 2 guys are perfect for Philadelphia because all they do is put their head down, put their nose to the grindstone, work their tails off, and understand that they're also blessed athletically, but they don't take that for granted. They don't talk a lot of trash. They just go out there and win ball games all the time and make unbelievable plays. They don't talk about, I'm going to get mine, all that stuff. They just go out there and do their job and do it with an incredible workmanlike attitude. And I would put Landon Dickerson in that category a little bit. It's Philadelphia is going to love these guys forever. There's going to be a statue of Rocky, and then there's going to be Devontae, and then there's going to be Jalen.
The pigeons will be happy.
All right, buddy. Let me tell everybody about FanDuel. I forgot to say this, so I'm going to say it now. Thank you for making us your first listen. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the #1 sports book in America, and that's FanDuel. Look at this little crawler or whatever you call that thing that there is, layover or whatever. Overlay, maybe overlay. A layover's in an airport. New customers join today and get started with $150 in free bets. That's guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So all you gotta do is place a $5 bet, then you get $150 in bets guaranteed. That's cash money right there. Just sign up at fanduel.com/lockedon, fanduel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads to player props. So, I mean, when the Super Bowl comes around, it's like you want to bet on the coin toss, you want to bet on which official makes the first call, whatever. Do it right there at FanDuel. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with same game parlay, all on an app that's safe and secure and easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at fanduel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and that's kind of a big deal. Also want to tell everybody, check out Locked On College Basketball. Maybe the Alabama stuff has subsided a little bit, so you can check them out now and listen to them. And look, it's time to get into bracketology, time to get back into the SEC play. Locked On College Basketball will have you covered. Go check them out. Their podcast is absolutely awesome. All right, Jimmy, one thing you're working on are the 12 guys, draft-eligible guys for Alabama, and a lot of those guys are at the Senior Bowl. And you're working on a little thing for On 3 about that, so why don't you just run down this list?
Sure. Well, it's not just – I mean, I think as of this morning, I would project, and I'm going to project 12 players from Alabama that will be drafted in April, which is an amazing number. Before Saban – Luke, I specifically remember that before Saban, 6 was like a lot. 6 was like near, it wasn't the record, but 6 was like well above average and was sort of like a target number for Alabama pre-Saban. And basically Nick Saban has shown up, and over the course of the Saban dynasty has doubled that number and is literally doing so again this year. Right now, I feel 12 guys are very likely to be drafted. Several are here in Mobile this week, which is why we're bringing it up now. It's Senior Bowl week. I'm working on this piece for Bama Insider, but basically I'm going to say project that there'll be 3 first-round picks. No surprises there. Bryce Young, Will Anderson, and Brian Branch. And I think Bryce is very, very likely to go as high as number 1. I think there could be a trade with the Bears from a quarterback-hungry team like the Texans or the Colts that could move up to number 1 and select Bryce. Will Anderson will go in the top 5. I think a good marriage for Will in the top 5 is the Arizona Cardinals, who among the top 5 teams specifically will be looking for a pass rusher in this draft. So I don't know that you can pencil Will into the Cardinals, but that looks like the betting favorite this morning. Brian Branch will go at some point in the first round. I've seen projections as high as number 10, as low as number 30. Fun, though, that the one projection I saw that had him going 30 was to the Eagles, which would be fun. You know, I know Brian would like to go higher than that for the money and the prestige, but adding another Alabama player to the Eagles, and the Eagles do need help in the secondary. Branch would be fantastic in Philadelphia, but those 3 will go in the first round. I think there'll be 9 other Alabama players taken. Several of them are here in Mobile. I think Jahmyr Gibbs will go probably day 2. That's round 2 or round 3. I think as a third down back and special teams player, he'll be highly valued and will go day 2. I think Cam Latu will be drafted most likely day 3. I think he's trying to prove in Mobile this week that he's a day 2 guy and not a day 3 guy. Right now, I'll say day 3, but I wouldn't be shocked if Latu moved a little higher. He's got the quintessential NFL build, and he'll prove this week that he's a leader. He's trying to prove that. 2 offensive linemen are in Mobile this week, Emil Ekiyor and Tyler Steen. I think they're both likely day 3 guys. Guards don't typically go very high in the draft. Ekiyor will be one of the better guards in the draft, but that's still probably a day 3 thing. Tyler Steen is in Mobile. I think the NFL with him is eager to see, are you a tackle in the NFL where he's always played in college, or is he a guard? And I think that's the question that scouts have for Steen this week that he's trying to address. On the defensive side of the ball, Byron Young has a chance, I think, to go day 2. He's trying to prove that this week. There's a great defensive line group in Mobile. Byron's working to prove that he belongs in day 2 of the draft and not day 3. DJ Dale as a nose guard, more likely a day 3 guy, period. Nose guards, much like guards on the offensive side, typically don't they're typically not drafted high, but they're sort of seen as run stuffers and not pass rushers. Henry To'oTo'o is in town. He could end up being the highest drafted of all the guys here in Mobile. And he's trying to prove that he is a solid day 2 guy. He could fall into day 3. I'm sure there'll be questions about his size, physicality, but he's trying to prove he's a day 2 guy. And then the defensive backs, just one is in Mobile, although several could be drafted. I think Jordan Battle is a day 2 guy for sure. I think he's one of the few guys on the team that's like, hey, you can just pencil Jordan Battle into day 2. But he is not here in Mobile. He was invited and accepted. However, he's still fighting injuries he suffered during the season and doesn't feel like he's healthy enough. And, hey, this is a job interview. If you're not 100%, it's not a good idea to participate, and not be at your best. So Jordan Battle has decided not to come to Mobile and tend to his health and get perfectly healthy for the combine. Eli Ricks went pro early, so he is, of course, not eligible to be in Mobile. He's working out, preparing for the draft. I think with questions off the field and with questions about how Eli didn't have a good junior year, didn't play until late in the season, all that stuff, I think Eli's probably a day 3 selection in the draft. And that'll be your 12 guys. A couple other guys are here in Mobile, though, including DeMarco Helms. I think Helms is proving that he's draft worthy. That's the thing for Helms this week. There'll be questions about his speed, his ability to play in coverage. He can answer a lot of those questions this week. So it's really good that Helms is here. We'll see if he can perform well enough to get on some draft boards. But he would be player number 13, assuming he was drafted.
Yes, I'm muted. Jesus. I can't shake it. I know people think I'm doing this on purpose.
People love it. The people demand it.
Do you remember in a Good Morning Vietnam when every time Forrest Whitaker got in the Jeep, it was already running, and Robin Williams like, if the motor's on, you don't have to crank it. I mean, yeah. I feel like I'm doing that. Like, I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm just that stupid.
That's a great analogy, by the way. You pulled that one out of
I just thought of it, but that I'm also getting ready for my colonoscopy tomorrow, so I'm hungry.
You're turning the barrel, literally.
It is. Is it do I have to get in a barrel?
That's the part they don't want to scare you with. They don't tell you about that part until the end.
Oh man,
tomorrow, right?
It is tomorrow, and it's what really sucks is it's not even in the morning. It'd be fine if it were in the morning, because then you do all this prep work or whatever. When the prep's worse than the procedure, I'm told, you've told me, everybody's told me. But mine is in the afternoon. So I can't eat all day today, and I can't eat in the morning tomorrow. And there is nothing I enjoy more than eating. So, and I'm one of those that, like, I eat what I like. If I go somewhere and they don't have stuff I like, I don't eat it. But the problem is, like, I'm as an adult, you should practice self-control and things like that. I don't do it. If I'm thinking, you know what I really like? A bear claw. I just drive to the convenience store and go get me a bear claw, and I come back to work.
That's a heck of a dinner. Good dinner.
But I mean, that's not dinner. That's usually just something I have, like at night.
Sounds to me like your prep work might take more than a day.
My prep work may take more than a day.
You might need a prep week if there's been bear claw dinners for your 50 years.
I'm afraid when they do this thing, they may have to do a lot over it at the Goo Goo Car Wash. I mean, that we have over here, because I don't think they know what all I've been eating recently. But anyway, all right, let's take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk some more about this and just some random Alabama nuggets. Be sure to check out Locked On College Basketball. That's still out there. I'm still telling you to check it out. You still need to go see it. Jimmy, on the draft eligible guys, I want to finish up there. I was about to say something, and I totally got lost because I was muted. But there was a guy on Twitter who is apparently a draft, expert. Everybody's a draft expert, just like everybody's got a podcast now. But But anyway, I'd leave the podcasting to the professionals.
Exactly.
Anyway, he was talking about, he was like, I'm watching Alabama, Tennessee, and he was bragging on Bryce Young and I think he was bragging on Will Anderson. And then he said, Henry To'oTo'o should not even be discussed as being drafted.
Yep.
I thought that was a little bizarre. He's like, and look, I think Henry was probably a little overrated by everybody too. I'm fine with saying that. Saying he shouldn't be drafted is a little bit much. And then he said, I don't know who number 2 for Alabama is, talking about DeMarco Hellams. He said, but that may be the worst defensive back I've seen Alabama have in the Nick Saban tenure. And I was thinking, wow, that is a statement. Now, it's not as bad as being called the worst defensive back in the Bill Curry era, because even the worst defensive back in the Nick Saban era is probably really good. But it's still, I thought that was a little bit harsh. I just wanted to throw that. I'm not going to even put the guy's name out there because I don't want, anybody tweeting at him or whatever, or giving him any extra clicks. But I just thought that was harsh.
Well, they're both here in Mobile, and To'oTo'o does have his critics, even in the Alabama fan base. What I would, the reason that I think To'oTo'o is a better prospect than his biggest critics realize is the intangibles. It is the leadership. It is the ability to see, diagnose, making line calls. He's superb at those things. It's things that fans don't see that make To'oTo'o really good. The things that the fans do see is he's not that big. And for a guy that's not that big, he's not uber athletic.
Yeah.
And those things will keep him up certainly out of day one, probably out of day 2. And I would say that Henry's probably a 5th round draft pick. That's what I feel. But let's see. He can cover better than people think. And he's a good tackler. I think he's just one of those kids that's not nearly as bad as his loudest critics suggest. He's also not a great player. I'm not suggesting that he is, or that he should go day 1 and everybody's crazy. I'm just saying you just got to evaluate Henry for what he is. He's a good, flawed prospect. Hellams is sort of similar. Hey, if that scout, one thing about him, I'm like, hey, if you're an NFL team that's drafting DeMarco Hellams because you want him to run deep routes and verticals, and you want him to go vertical with NFL wide receivers, then you deserve to lose your job. That's not what Hellams does. Hellams is going to be scheme specific. And what Hellams does well, he does extremely well. You're talking about a guy who's basically started most of 4 years for Nick Saban, another guy that knows where to be, when to be there, physical player. He'll be great on special teams. He's just weak in one area that's significant, and it's not a great thing for him. Everything else, he does exceptionally well. DeMarco, to me, is one of those guys, Luke, who may not be drafted, but he also might make a team.
We're going to go ahead and cut it short right there because I want to get into a couple of names for offensive coordinator that have come up recently. I saw Bama online, and we'd all heard whispers, but one name is Freddie Kitchens, and I want to talk about that tomorrow's podcast. They put that name out there, and frankly, I'd kind of dig it. I think there's a lot to like about Freddie Kitchens in the sense that he's a former Alabama player. He loves the state. He loves the University of Alabama. He's a little bit chunky, which most of us can relate to. I think that's all positive. I don't want Cliff Kingsbury coming up there and stealing all our wives. Anyway, no, I'm just teasing. We'll talk about all the potential candidates tomorrow. Hopefully, maybe we have a hire by then, but I'm doubting it. But until then, Jimmy, we'll be back then, and roll Tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.